everybody, this is Angela Savage, the daughter of IndyCar driver Swede Savage. It's time to watch stories from motorsports. My buddy, Doug Kenny, loves to share the journey of people in racing, and he is an amazing dude. Drivers, owners, fans, and team members, watch the SFM podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny from Stories from Motorsports. I'd like to thank my buddy Josh Mabe for the YouTube work he did years ago that inspired me to create this platform. I'd like to thank my buddy Victor Sifton for convincing me to get back into it after my hiatus from 2017 to 2019. I have a very special treat for you all today with an amazing journey from an amazing racing figure. Drivers, start your engines. Yeah, so what's your best memory of working with Go Green before it became Go FAS?
So my best memory, so I grew up, and this is one of my favorite stories. So I grew up a diehard Terry Labonte fan. Like, he was God to me, right? And so I get hired on with Go Green, and I think I started with them towards the end of the summer. I remember the first race that team went to was the fall Richmond race. I actually got hired. I got my job offer at Bristol during the Bristol night race weekend. But so they hired me. My first race with the team was Charlotte, which was a home race. So it was cool to be there. And at that time, it was really cool because Blake Cook was driving for us, and that was the first time Leaf Filter with Matt Colleague ever appeared in NASCAR.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it's a very funny story about that race. So J.J. Yaley was supposed to drive for us that race. And Matt Colleague, the owner of Leaf Filter, spent all his money because he wanted a driver suit, he wanted pit crew suits, he wanted the whole shebang. And Yaley came to us, I think it was Tuesday, the week of, and said, hey, I can't drive for you guys, I have to go drive for BK. So we were scrambling to find a driver that was A, going to fit in the Yaley's seat, and that would fit in the Yaley's fire suit. And so we called up Blake Cook. And Blake Cook came in, and Matt Colleague fell in love with him. And so Matt Colleague and Leaf Filter came back with us for Homestead that year. And then there was some other behind-the-scenes stuff that happened. And then that's how Matt Colleague and Blake Cook went full-time with TriStar Motorsports at the time. But that launched into, now Colleague Racing. And they're, a winning team in the Cup Series and Xfinity Series. But my best memory with Go Green was Talladega, the fall Talladega race. And like I said, I grew up idolizing Terry Labonte. And so we get to the track, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was shaking. I was so nervous. Here I am, I'm his PR guy. And he just looked at me and goes, why are you so nervous? I'm like, because I grew up idolizing you. He goes, I don't understand why. And it ended up being a really fun weekend. We actually qualified top 10 because that was when we still did the drafting qualifying, if you remember, on the super speedways. And we hooked up with Brad Kozlowski, another 14, and we qualified in the top 10. And then there was some stuff that happened behind the scenes with the wrap on our car. We had a special tribute paint scheme to Terry Labonte, and NASCAR made us change the wrap overnight. And because of that, it was considered an unapproved adjustment, and so we had to start from the back. And then if I remember, we probably got caught up in a wreck because we never had luck on the super speedways.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool for me. My first ever Cup Series race really traveling with the team, was with my childhood hero.
That's amazing.
And,
I got
it's pretty cool. You don't get to hear about that often.
Yeah, for sure. Not everyone is that lucky. I got the same feeling when I met my hero years ago, Jamie McMurray.
Yep.
I remember idolizing Jamie growing up. I got into racing through him pretty much, and it was because I saw his photo finish in the newspaper of when he edged Kyle Busch at Daytona, and that piqued my interest over the next few years until I became a diehard fan. And then in 2015, I met him in person at PIR for the first time. It was that tingly feeling of making sure you give the good impression,
Yep, exactly. No, and that was the biggest. from some kid from California and making it into the Cup Series. That was the biggest shock, was especially when the following season, was our first year as GoFast, working with Barile. That was another, I was so nervous, and I had to work with him for 2 weeks straight, because at the time, Daytona Speedways was 2 weeks long. And I'll never forget doing Daytona Media Day with him, and we're just following around, Ryan Newman, Dylan Hart Jr., Jeff Gordon, doing all the media stuff with them, and I'm like, this is insane. I just grew up idolizing these people on TV, and now I'm, standing right next to them. But, and definitely, you learn very quick that Ryan Newman was the prankster of the garage. He was always cracking jokes and, that kind of stuff, and McDowell was the same way. Carl Edwards is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. I remember that. And Danica was one of the nicest people as well. So lots of good memories with interactions with other drivers.
Yeah, for sure. And Tony Stewart comes across to me as being like Bill Belichick, a little bit.
Yeah, he was the type that would always crack jokes as well. Especially when I was working with Bobby and stuff, we'd see him and they would hang out and talk, and he was just always cracking jokes. And I have some good friends that used to work at Stuart Haas and worked with Tony, and were good friends with him for a long time. They said the same thing. He's like the biggest jokester, prankster. Him and Newman were the biggest pranksters in the garage.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth from what I've heard. I've seen a lot of the funny stuff they've said,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, just especially behind scenes. It was even worse. A lot more R-rated, if we can say.
Yeah, I know what that's like. R-rated, like rat boys or whatever they call them.
Yep, exactly. So.
Yeah. So what's the best race you remember from your GoFast days?
So, I'm trying to think. I know there were some races where we finished well, but I would have to say, that's tough. There were so many good memories and, that kind of stuff. But as a team, I would say the best memory, I don't remember which Daytona 500 it was, but it was one of the Daytona 500s with Bobby, and we wrecked in the duels. No, we wrecked in qualifying. We wrecked in group qualifying. Mm-hmm. So we go out for the duels, and our team thrashed. Like I said, we were a small team. Our backup car was just a show. So we're having to build the backup car pretty much from the ground up in the garage. Meanwhile, and this just shows the support of other teams in the garage. At the time, Petty was sending a support trailer back to Charlotte. So Petty took our wrecked primary car back to Charlotte for us to fix it. Then we go to racing the duels and we get wrecked again. So our backup car, and it was just, our backup car got wrecked. We missed Friday practice. Saturday early morning, the transport trailer and Richard Petty's guys hung a body. Our guys were in there working. Our 2 or 3 full-time shop employees worked, I think, 30 hours straight to build our original primary car back to be our backup car, which then had to turn around and be our primary car again. And it wasn't the finish we wanted, because I think we ended up getting wrecked in the 500. But it was a show of how much 2 different teams can come together to help each other out.
Yeah, definitely.
We would not have been able to run that 500 if it wasn't for Richard Petty Motorsports and their team of guys and all that kind of stuff. So that's a memory that'll always stick out in my head, just because it just shows you how the garage is like a big family. And even though you're competing against each other every weekend, you're always going to be there to help each other out.
Yeah, and off the track, you're usually friends either way, even when you get mad on the track.
Yeah, exactly. You're always hanging out with everyone outside the track and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I bet that Austin Dillon and Joey Logano won't be having a beer for a while.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's probably not best if I voice my comments on that one. But.
Yeah.
I was happy to see the penalty report. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I definitely thought that crossed the line, but it is what it is. That's just the intensity of racing, Sometimes and it's, I think I don't remember who it was, but they said,
that's what NASCAR's created with this playoff format. You got to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely think they need to address that. Definitely, because this kind of system, can turn drivers into confused people behind the wheel,
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad NASCAR did the right thing, and it helps show like kids growing up. Like I saw a clip of Kevin Harvick talking about Keelan, and Keelan saying, "Well, Dad, since Austin Dillon did that, is that okay if I do that?"
Yeah.
And so NASCAR's decision really, I think, helps that narrative.
Yeah, I agree as well. It was the right call. Because quite honestly, in my opinion, NASCAR went easy compared to other series.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, what are your hopes for the future, and where are you working at the moment? Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please hit like and subscribe if you did so, and please continue supporting our amazing guest. And everybody, we'll see you next time on SFM.
Hi, this is Ted Warner speaking. While the checkered flag is waved for this program, stay tuned for next week for the next episode of SFM. Thanks to Doug Kenny for what he does for motorsports.